Edition of Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman, and I'm joined by my usual cohorts, the Professor Russ Stevens, Uncle Joe McLaughlin, and he's JP's first son, Tim Hoey. Well, we have another great show for you tonight, boys, so let's get it started. Well, we have to start with the funeral, boys, and every time we talk about this, this is our 8th year doing the show, and every time a season ends for any of our teams, those 4 teams, it's always a difficult time, kind of predictable, other than Uncle Joe. We all figured that this game was going to end the way it did,
and
but we never figured
that way too. I just wouldn't put out the prediction that way.
Yeah, we never figured it would be this embarrassing, and that was statistically, the Bills had the ball 7 times. They scored a touchdown 7 times. What are you going to say, boys? It looks like the team quit. I hate to say it, but that looks like a playoff game where the team quit.
Oh, I agree. Did you see any linebackers playing in that game? You didn't hear the name of Judon, or Hightower, or Van Noy, or Bentley doing anything positive the whole game, it seems.
Yeah, coaching Russ has to take half the blame for this, at least. I mean, football's a game of passion, and their players had no passion.
Yeah, they didn't. Well, I think the coaching is on 2 fronts, right? One was just game plan preparation. Did they know what they were supposed to be doing? And then the other is obviously motivation to pull it off. They failed on both accounts. I don't really get that much into the whole like, oh, they quit on their coach. I don't think anyone really quits on Belichick. I think once they fell behind more than 21 points and it's 1 degree out and they know they're overmatched, human nature is screw it. We're not going to win this game. You let up a little bit. Yeah.
Now, I had heard something from kind of a rather reputable guy on the radio this week. The Patriots started poorly this year, and at that point, Belichick took over running the defense.
Yeah.
And they got their defense in order. I mean, they were in the conversation to be in the Super Bowl this year. And then he took his reins off and gave it back to his son in Mayo again. And that's when things went south again. My question is, how active was Belichick actually in devising that defensive plan? That's my question.
Something happened at the break. Something happened within that break.
Yeah. They came back with nothing.
Look, I think you just take a look at the age of the core guys on that defense, and that's all you need to know about that game, where Hightower's a shell of himself in terms of his speed. Collins doesn't look like the athlete. McCourty's not the athlete that he used to be. You go down the line, and I just think that those guys did not have an 18-game season in them. I think they had a 14-game season in them.
Do you think
that was it?
I was like, years 2 through 6 for a defensive player, and then kind of it's time to hang it up almost.
Yeah.
Well, they tried to rest
so fast now. Everything you have to be way too fast now.
Well, this is a slow team, but they tried to rest Hightower in the Dolphins game, and that still didn't work.
They could rest him always.
I think it was a psychological malaise that they hit. They were psychologically done coming back from
they were talking about
the break.
Defense being torn in 2 different directions between Belichick's kid and Mayo, and they were like 2 different camps.
I don't really?
Know what that is. It was kind of leaderless. It was, and they're always most players are going to usually go.
Mayo did a crappy job because those linebackers. He was the linebackers coach. The linebackers absolutely sucked this year.
Yeah, Patriots fans, let's hope that Mayo gets hired, because if he gets hired as a head coach, first of all, he should go out the door anyways. But if he gets hired as a head coach, we get 2 third-round compensation picks.
Wow.
He's a minority, yeah.
We get 2 picks. We'll get in the next year. We'll get it this year a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah.
Next year for them hiring a head coach.
I mean,
do you think he had much to work with though either? Those guys rolled it over the hill.
But no schemes at all. They did no schemes. They did nothing. Here it is. You're behind. Nothing interesting defensively to try to get it.
Look, I just think that they were undermanned. They couldn't play man-to-man defense. They just couldn't. once Gilmore left and Jonathan Jones was gone, they couldn't play man-to-man, which they've been playing for the last 6 years, Joe? They've been playing man-to-man defense, which means that playing zone means you better get your pass rushers home, and they couldn't get their pass rushers home. So the whole system broke down.
Scotty, I don't want to steal your show here, but I got a big question. Is the outcome different if Tom Brady's behind center for the Patriots?
No.
That game.
No, just like 3 years ago, it wasn't different.
No.
You could have had Tom Brady and Randy Moss circa 2009, and that game still you would have lost by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not quick enough. They're too old in defense, and their leader, the guy who carried them 3/4 of the season, Matthew Judon. I don't know what happened, but he literally was a non-entity. In fact, he played half of the plays in the playoff game.
Well, I think Buffalo figured out a way to negate him.
Yeah, but Joe,
that was when he disappeared.
He didn't play well after the break. He never showed back up after the break. I hope he's injured. I hope this just isn't who he is.
One game before the break, the first
he was on everyone's lips for his defensive player of the year the first half of the year.
Yeah. But, you had talked about COVID with Cam Newton, that he came back not the same player.
Yeah.
If Judon gets COVID, and he clearly did not come up to play the rest of the season.
What I'm finding out is there's a bunch of different kinds of COVID you can get. You can get it and really, really feel it. You can get it and kind of feel it. You can get it and feel nothing. I don't know, which one did Judon have? You know what I mean?
But how does Judon fit next year? He's like all of a sudden become a question mark.
Nah, I don't know.
My player on the team now.
My guess is, look, this thing I think you started in the right spot. Scott, where you say, are they going to just bring this defensive staff back? You're going to bring Mayo and Steven Belichick back and have them split duties and not have a really this team needs a scheme change on defense. They need better players and better coaching, period.
Is Steven Belichick immune from getting fired? I mean,
no, he's not going to get fired, but look, what this team needs is get some new ideas and get a Dean Pease, get one of those guys in there who has some different ideas about how to play defense in today's NFL.
No, they need to get an elite unit. Either the front seven has to be good, back seven, or the linebackers alone have to be good, or the defensive backers. Someone's got to take the lead on that defense.
The best thing Steven Belichick could do would be go to another team and build some credibility.
But how does a team that goes into Buffalo and on both sides of the ball crush the team?
Oh, because Josh Allen, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, was negated from throwing because of that win.
Yeah.
No, but I'm talking about the line. I'm talking about the defensive and offensive line.
Well, remember, they were missing 3 offensive linemen. 3 starters were out of that game for Buffalo, the first game. That kind of accounts for that.
Honestly, Scotty, I think you just take that first game. It was such a weird. I think you just take it off the table. That it's as if that game never happened. Really is.
The second
game was such a weird thing.
Of the real matchup, And then
the real matchups were Buffalo and Foxborough, Indianapolis and Indianapolis, and Buffalo in the playoffs, and they got throttled all 3 of those games.
Yeah, look, we saw the Colts were fakers. They couldn't even beat the
couldn't beat the Dolphins. Beat the Dolphins.
Last game of the season.
That was the apogee of their year too, beating the Patriots, and then they disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Colts game is where the season ended. You beat a Colts team that absolutely was literally trying to give you the game the whole second half. As hard as he could.
They pulled the curtain back on the Patriots in that game.
Yeah.
Well, the guy who did shine, and it's unquestionable, is Mack Jones.
Here it comes.
He was the best player on the field for the Patriots. And I literally, you could not argue that. Would you agree? I hope.
I could argue that.
No, I think he played really well. I think he played really well in a really, really bad situation. And, if we take a step back, look, they went 10-7. I think several of us picked 10-7 as their finishing record. They made the playoffs, and they have a quarterback who you can be confident in that he's a quarterback of the future.
He is.
And the kid, he played badly in the last quarter of the season. He just did, but he played very well in that playoff game under bad circumstances. So you got to feel hopeful about him, right?
He competes. All you had to do is watch Matthew Stafford not be able to do a quarterback sneak after being a 10-year veteran to realize that Mack Jones does the small things. He can quarterback sneak. And what we saw in the Bills game, that 15-yard run for a first down, that's something that Tom Brady never did. But Mack Jones has these little skill sets that really will actually be very positive moving forward.
Well, we hope so.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have to assume that he's going to physically get himself into a better spot, right? He's not in the kind of shape that you need a quarterback to be in, right? You're not going to turn him into Lamar Jackson, but the guy looks, as I've said, he looks like a frat boy, right?
I don't think that changes, Russ.
Sure it will. Look, take a look at Tom Brady's picture when he was a rookie and take a look at him in year 5. His body is going to change. His arm will get better. He's going to be a better athlete.
The last half of the season, he looked like garbage because the defenses get so much more complex when they get put it together all year long. They get more and more complex, and he couldn't keep up with it this year. Next year, he's got a whole off season to look at the film,
exactly,
see what he did wrong, and think about what he could do better.
What I think he really has going for him is his desire to win.
Yeah.
And that's going to drive him.
That's why he should be better.
Do what he has to do to get better. And a lot of that is in the film room. I mean, I really never noticed it until I started going to a lot of games live. And I realized that 3/4 of the passes that Tom Brady was throwing was before guys even made their breaks out of their routes, and if a quarterback can get that computer brain going where he knows where all 5 guys are going to be, in 2.9 seconds and deliver the ball, that's the road to success in this league.
Yeah, but the receivers got to be here. Remember, that's why Tom quit, because the receivers weren't making those cuts.
And you got knucklehead Janu Smith, who you paid a ton of money for, and he doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Well, maybe GM has to hire receivers that know how to run routes,
Or better coaching, receivers coach. I don't know who that guy is. Is he a Belichick too?
Before you went out and signed a free agent, wouldn't you do a little research on how he runs routes and if he can remember the playbook?
I think he was brought in to be the big blocker and the H-back to run the ball and be a blocker. Not so much a receiver. Hunter Henry was the receiver.
Here it is. We thought that they would be dominant in the red zone with Smith and Henry. They were only on the field together 18% of the time. That has to change.
Yeah, 12 personnel, they hardly use it. We all thought we have 2 tight end sets, but 22 and 12 set personnel was like hardly seen all year.
All right, so let's go over the running backs. Are you good? I know with your little Brandon Bolden, who had heat.
No, I'm not.
I've heard all week is if Brandon Bolden had caught that pass, would we have won that?
Brandon Bolden caught that pass, we would have lost by 30 points instead of 37 points or whatever the hell it was. Look, I don't think Brandon Bolden's good enough as a pass receiving back. I think you need a James White. You need one of that phenotype, right?
Yeah.
We need one of those guys, and it's not going to be JJ Taylor.
Will White be back?
No, I think White was done before he got hurt, right? You need somebody like that. Look, I don't think you need a lot on offense. You need somebody like that. You need reinforcements for the offensive line. You need another receiver, and then you roll with what you have. If you have a receiver you can put in front of Myers and Bourne, right? Get a real slot receiver, right? Or whatever. You're fine. Offensively, this team does not have a problem. Mack's going to improve. They're going to improve on offense. I don't have any questions about that.
Yeah.
It could be a lot better if you could just put Bourne as the slot receiver and get 2 wideouts.
Yeah.
Get
right.
rid of Jacoby.
Or, I mean, Jacoby's a nice 3rd or 4th receiver, Joe. It's fine. But he can't be a 2nd receiver.
I would put him as a 4th or 5th option.
Yeah, right.
Full wide. You put him out there.
Catches everything that's thrown his way pretty much.
Yeah, he does. So, I mean, you're fine. Give a receiver reinforcements on the offensive line. You keep the 2 tight ends. You hope Smith gets better. You're fine on offense. You don't have an offensive problem.
Go back in a Patriots uniform next year?
What's that?
Aguilar, do we see him in the Patriots?
Yeah,
uniform?
probably because I think it costs a lot of money to cut him unless you can
I
trade
don't
him.
think a dead hit would be that bad.
No, it could be very much so. Yeah.
I'm hoping for a big upgrade on Aguilar this year.
Well, you're not.
The first round pick could be that, and then go defense the rest of the way.
Problem is the Patriots have all third, fourth wide receivers. That's all these guys
Right.
are.
That's exactly right, Scott.
Yeah.
They need at least a number 1 or a number 2, right?
Yeah, 4 slot receivers.
You're asking guys to play up 2 spots as opposed to 1. Guys can play up 1 spot, but they can't play up 2.
And defenses can play, they can play it straight if you don't have that superstar wide receiver.
You just need to rebuild the defense, right? And Mike Reese had I don't know if you guys saw it, but he had a great notebook today where he just went through, and my takeaway was these young guys either have not been given the opportunity or have not been developed. Uche got no time. Winovich got no time. You go down the line, none of those guys played.
Wasn't Perkins injured all year?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, they're always like, Belichick, he just buried those guys this year. So either you're going to
Devin McCourty out there.
Our player development system in this franchise right now is not great. It's not great. They're not developing the guys they're drafting.
All right, I want to finish with the offense before we go to the defense. It was a mistake getting rid of Sony Michel and keeping J.J. Taylor on the field. Right? That was a mistake, Joe. Right? You admit it?
Let's see what the draft pick brings us.
You don't let it down.
Before you pass judgment, let's see.
I don't know, Scotty. Where would Sony Michel play? Our 2 running backs are fantastic. Got no problem.
I'll take our top 2.
Harris and Stevenson are both better than him.
I'll take both of them over Sony Michel.
The guy with a blown Achilles came back and just displaced Sony Michel on Monday night. He's 6 months out of a bad Achilles.
I'll take Stevenson and Harris, both of them, all day long over Sony Michel.
All right, so losing Stephon Gilmore, not that would have mattered in the game, but that was handled poorly by Bill Belichick.
Handled poorly.
At least you got to get more than a 6th round pick.
Look, last July, we probably were sitting here saying defensive backfield was a strength in this team. You've got J.C. Jackson, you've got Gilmore coming back, you got Jonathan Jones, and then you got the kid Miles Bryant. You got all these guys behind him. And at the end of the day, they couldn't play any man-to-man defense in the biggest game of the year.
But watch, Gilmore's not getting a penny of what he thought he was getting.
No.
He got that to the $7 million last year.
Then they should have traded him last. Then Joe, they should have traded him last trading deadline.
Exactly before, and now he's not. No one's going to pay him.
No.
He played lousy for a lousy team. He'll be lucky to get, like say a 2-year deal at $3 million each.
But they should have kept.
He was asking for $18 million a year.
They should have kept him, played him. He was going to try doing a make.
He wasn't going to play.
Well, then he wasn't going to get a contract, and they would have still gotten a 3rd round compensation pick, right? For him.
They should have traded. We were all saying it last trading deadline. Just trade Gilmore.
Yeah.
Trade him. They were out of it last year. We'd have a 2nd round pick right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Who playing on the field right now?
Playing on the field.
Who would have contributed? Could have been a linebacker,
Right.
a young stud linebacker going into this next season that we could be encouraged about, probably from Alabama. I don't even know who went. But
maybe LSU.
Does J.C. Jackson, is he franchise tagged? What is Did he sign a long-term deal? What is it? He didn't play very well that playoff game.
They're not going to be a free agent.
This team doesn't really like to they don't like to pay anybody.
And who's going to be their number 1 cornerback next year? Like, it's fine to say, well, we won't pay J.C. Jackson. Who the hell is going to be the number 1 quarterback next year?
They'll tag him.
They don't want to sign him to a long-term contract.
They'll tag him.
Oh, they want to sign him. Look what they gave Gilmore back when he was in his prime. They gave him the most that any quarterback had ever gotten it. They weren't shy then. They won't be shy with this guy.
Look, the mistake is they, again, ruined another 2nd round pick by picking Williams, who Mike Reese said should never, ever play another game for the New England Patriots. Another 2nd round. You draft a defensive back in the 2nd round. He better be a guy who contributes for a
Think of what you have to choose from in that position. You're probably on the 7th or 8th defensive back, best defensive back in the country at that point, right? Maybe even higher than that by the time.
Maybe higher, yeah.
Maybe higher. Top 6 probably,
Yeah.
You got to hit on that. You got to hit. Jones and Jackson are undrafted free agents. Malcolm Butler, undrafted free agent. So don't draft any cornerbacks. Like you said, have the guy, Russ always says, have the guy from like the Packers draft your cornerback.
I want the guy from the Packers or the Steelers to draft our wide receivers.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we got to find somebody who can draft defensive backs for us. And then we'll be fine. If he only picked offensive linemen and defensive linemen, we'd be fine.
Yeah, right. That's another positive. You're building the defense, in my mind, around Barmore.
Yeah.
I think the Steelers receivers, Ben Roethlisberger had a lot to do with making them look good and developing them.
I'm just saying, Joe, like, you know, there are teams that just constantly produce good wide receivers, just constantly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know, and Belichick and Brady too were like clothes. They didn't like the young ones. They don't like the young receivers.
That's what I was saying about player development. We have a player development.
Now you got Mack Jones. I think he'll deal with young receivers where Brady wouldn't.
I think the draft's going to be the best player available, really kind of thing. I think that we have more holes on this team than we think that they do. And that, you know, that if they do keep the 21st pick, whoever's the best guy on the board probably grabs.
This is what I said last year. Just take the best possible athlete. I don't care what position he plays other than quarterback. You know, like Tom E. Curran had a very interesting poll today tweet. I mean, I think I know the answer, but like, he said, basically, knowing what you know now, would you have drafted Mack or Micah Parsons?
Well, first of all, Parsons
both would be good picks.
Carson was like the 7th pick in the draft. And
no, he wasn't. He was drafted by Dallas, like I think 1 pick ahead of us or 2 picks ahead of us.
Watch Cam Newton as the quarterback all year.
I mean, you'd pick Mack.
It probably could have been something different, you know, like.
Well, it would have been the kid from Houston, the kid from that they picked from Stanford. Yeah, we would have ended up with that kid. I can't remember his name, but Mills would have been the guy we were talking about.
He had a pretty good year for a
good year. I would have picked Mack. My answer to that question is Mack, but it's interesting because like a Micah Parsons is exactly what this team needs.
Yeah.
Oh, they need that big thump up. Hightower was just not existed on the ball linebacker.
Yeah, you had if you had Parsons and Barmore, that we saw.
Mother of God, right?
We saw that with the Rams. You know, Donald and Miller. You have two guys there that you can only double team one guy.
Yep.
And needless to say, they went off against the Arizona. So, what's the priority? Linebacker or defensive back? If you have
all wide receiver.
No, yeah.
I don't. Timmy, I don't want that guy drafting a wide receiver in the first round.
Yeah.
But that's a kiss of death. I think you just honestly, Scotty, you take the best athlete, you take the most explosive athlete at either one of those positions.
I think it will be a wide receiver. All the mock drafts I've seen have that number one guy falling not all the way to 21, but close, and they could be there.
Who, that Jameson from Alabama?
Yeah.
No, nope.
Because when you you can't have them. But no one had N'Keal Harry as a first rounder.
I would
go with the consensus on this.
I'd call up the Las Vegas Raiders. I'd call us the Las Vegas Raiders and ask them what they want for Hunter Renfrow. That's what I would do.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. If N'Keal Harry ever plays another down for the New England Patriots, do we vow to go handcuff ourselves to Gillette Stadium and not allow anyone in the place until they
get rid of them?
And the whole idea that that N'Keal Harry has any value is delusional.
Did you know that N'Keal?
Great blocker. Great blocker.
Did you know that N'Keal Harry and James Young are cousins?
I'm sure they are.
And who?
Well,
James Young. It's an inside joke to me. It's my most hated athlete in Boston history, N'Keal Harry, has finally reached that level.
He's getting close there.
Okay, and I know that we drafted Hartley Dykes, and he was a complete failure too. But is N'Keal Harry the worst first round pick in the history of the
Ken Sims.
No.
Overall,
sure. Yeah. Yes, of course, Ken Sims. But in the Belichick era, all you need to do is take a look at the list of receivers who were taken after N'Keal Harry, and it just brings you to tears. We could have had Deebo Samuel.
I know.
Well, what a talent he is.
There's a
Oh
video
my
on
God.
NFL Network, and they play all the time. Apparently, Deebo Samuel thought he was being drafted by the Patriots and said, Bill, I'll see you soon.
Every mock draft under the sun that year said that the Patriots Deebo Samuel was the perfect Patriot. And what did Belichick do? He drafted some big doofus from Arizona State.
If anybody says to Belichick, this is who you're going to pick, just scratch them right off the board.
It's so right.
Whoever the West Coast scout was.
Exactly.
I hope he was fired, or he went with Joe Judge, or with Brian Flores, because whoever that scout was, he's the worst.
So I don't know, like maybe you already answered this, Russ, that Timmy asked. Stephen Belichick, is he still going to be the coach next year?
Well, he's the coach's son, for God's sakes. What's he going to do? Fire his son?
It's not just Stephen. He's got two sons.
Yeah, I think he's a defensive back.
Defensive back.
And the daughter has
I
a
know.
job too.
I deal with a very successful company, and they have a rule. It's a family business, and anyone that wants to work in the family business has to work outside the business for 5 years before they can work in the family business. I think that's one of the best things I've seen a family business do. I think if this kid wants any credibility going further, he has to go outside the fold here and build his own resume on his own. And if I were Bill Belichick, if he wants to help his son, he should be trying to land him in another staff somewhere.
Yeah, Timmy, I agree. Look at Kyle Shanahan. Started with his dad, and now he's back in.
Got fired. He moved on. It's very incestuous with the Shanahan's, Lombardis, the Belichick.
Yeah.
No one's gonna know what this kid is until he goes out and proves it on his own.
All right, boys. We know Brookline's own Bob Kraft is an older gentleman. He just likes to party. All right. But is he going to have a discussion with Bill? Because we know Jonathan's not going to have any discussions with Bill. Bob just spent $250 million, and Bob doesn't like to spend a ton of money.
That's such phony baloney. He spent the same last year as he spent this year as he'll spend next year. It's the
He
same.
said more today. He just said
No, Joe, upfront money, much more guaranteed money that he had to write checks for.
But it all comes out in the salary cap, right? You can only spend this much every year, and it comes out to the same amount every year.
What did they just sign? $110 billion TV deal or something? I mean, the Kraft, they're not hurting for money down there.
No, but Bob did not like that last game. He not like freezing his ass off.
Who wouldn't? Who would?
Look, I
He's
think
got a nice eater above him. Believe me in that.
I think the thing that remember that you always hear the Kraft say, we pick the best possible managers and we let them do their job. And I think the one thing that the Krafts are probably questioning right now is, did Belichick pick the best possible managers and letting them do their job? And you cannot tell me that the best possible person for the Patriots to be defensive coordinator, some job combo between his son and Gerard Mayo.
Well, I think that was just out of necessity. They don't think it was, but where they've had so many staff defections in the last 3 years,
then bring someone else bring someone else in from the outside. I mean, there's guys who'd be dying to work.
He hasn't done that since D.
I know he hasn't, but
that was.
I know he hasn't.
A year later. Well,
I get it, Joe, but that's the problem. I mean, the problem is that they've been poached to death, and they're left with the coach's sons. Right. That's what we got.
The dregs.
Does somebody need to go from that loss? Do we need somebody's head from that embarrassing?
The old linebackers is who has to go.
Yeah, I think that's right, Tim. I think you got to clear these. It's time for a generational change on defense. The older set who have lost their a step or two athletically have to go now, because you can't play defensive football in today's NFL being a step slow.
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great segue. All right, here we go. Stay or go. Here we go. Dante Hightower.
Gone.
Jamie Collins.
Gone.
Kyle Villeneuve.
Stays.
Wow.
Iffy.
I think you have to have some holdover. And he looks like he's got more continuity. Some continuity. And he looks like he's got more left in his tank than these guys do.
Russ, he was supposed to marry Josh Allen. How'd that work out?
Scotty, who's going to mirror Josh Allen? 6'5", who runs a 4.35 40, for God's sake. There's nobody mirrors.
10 years younger.
Nobody mirrors Josh Allen. I'm not blaming that on Van Noy. That's a system problem. I'm not blaming that on him.
Cal Van Noy, stay or go?
Stay.
Stay. Oh, okay. All right.
I
Devin
can see him gone. I'll say gone.
McCourty.
Gone.
Gone.
Going to retire. Yeah.
He's like number one on my list to go.
And that's like $12 million freed up right there.
Yeah.
So, Joe, you have him gone?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for your
And
service.
I didn't like Russ. I think he's going to retire. gracefully.
Okay, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
James White. Stay or
Gone.
go?
Hip
Gone.
is the death sentence.
Gone.
J.C. Jackson.
Stays.
Hey,
Franchise.
tagged her a contract.
Gunner. I'm hearing rumors that they're going to let Gunner go.
Stays.
If they get someone else to do his job, he's gone.
He's pretty good back there.
Jacoby Myers.
Stays.
Stays.
Because they have
Good
to tender
Patriot.
him. They have to actually pay him some good money, and they don't know if they're willing to do that.
Well, I don't
My
know.
guy that
They don't have anyone better to replace him. I mean, you throw the ball at him and he catches it. I mean, can't blame the kid.
I think the guy that goes, I know it's a huge surprise, and I know you're not going to agree with me, is David Andrews.
Yeah,
He could. He almost left last year.
He got put around this year quite a bit.
So I think they get.
Yeah, and no one would give him any money because they know
No one
he
gave him any
stinks.
money last year. Yeah,
So,
he could go.
He had to
He has
come
a
back with a
contract.
field between his legs.
They've been trying to replace him for years, and I think this is the time. I mean, just
If they get a big young kid, yes, they will. But it remains to be seen.
You have to
Very
prove-
low on the draft totem pole.
Yeah.
You get a pretty good center in the fourth round.
Right.
Well,
Trent Brown.
Stays.
He's
Days.
a free agent.
I
So
think-
he's a free agent. Yeah. So
He's a big
Yeah,
part of the
stays.
here, actually, that line.
I think he doesn't get a big contract like he
Yeah.
thinks he will.
Stays in a mid-range contract. Stays.
They'll say,
Okay.
go test the market and come back and see what you got.
Yeah.
guy who has a heavy contract that for this coming year, that Shaq Mason.
He could go. He could go. Yeah. Some of those guys are going. I don't know which ones. Wynn or Mason, that you'd imagine, is gone, right?
Isaiah Wynn?
Well, when they picked up his option.
Yeah, I know. But you could,
He's
you
not on
hope.
the field. The kid's
He-
never.
That's gotta be a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know who I think is going to go?
What percentage of snaps since Wynn got here has he played that he was eligible to play? I mean,
Not
I'd
enough.
say about 80%. After that
all
first year.
the injuries and everything, he's never on the
His
field.
bigger problem is he's not that good. He's a left tackle. He's not very good. I mean,
Slow feet.
can't you do better than him?
Yeah, he's just another guy. He's nothing outstanding.
But Joe's Mike just had a transformation here.
Yeah, it sounds great.
You know the guy that had a terrible season that I love?
Credit Russ.
Jake Bailey.
Oh, your microphone just morphed into a normal microphone.
Bailey didn't play well this year, but
No.
these guys he could have had a pulled hamstring all year long for all we know. Who knows?
But they paying him a lot of money. He's a high.
He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
What did you say, Scotty?
Jake
the
Bailey.
Johnson missed blocks twice on those punts. That got blocked.
Yeah, he's
Wow.
gone. I think they're done with
He's
him.
gone. They're gonna get a real fullback if they want a fullback.
Yeah.
And stop screwing around with Nick Folk. The guy's fantastic.
Right.
Stop doing the practice squad crap. Sign the man to a 2-year deal and treat him with respect because the kid he's been automatic since he got here.
Hey, I wouldn't call him
under 40 yards.
I wouldn't call him a kid. I think he's about as old as I am.
Yeah, no, he's a kid.
Been
He's
good though.
pushing Tom Brady.
He's a lot younger than we are. Trust me. And you and I are the same age.
He's been one of the bright spots. He's been a bright spot this year.
We were 20. We were graduating from college when he was born. Just so you know.
Terrible. Terrible.
All right, boys. We're going to the
Some of us are only attending college.
we're going to some of us remember college, some of us do not. Going to Boston Celtics. And I saw an interview with Jason Tatum a day or two ago, and he was talking about Aaron Nesmith, and he sounded very mature. He sounded like the leader of the team. There's hope for Jason Tatum after all, that he can, he's only 3 years old, but he looks like he's all of a sudden trying to change his personality. And
Yeah, you wonder.
there's other guys.
You wonder if I think they got to move Smart out. The combination of those three guys isn't working. And, Smart's one of those guys who thinks of himself as the leader, the heart and soul. And I wonder if you moved him out and you moved a younger point guard in, you just wonder what kind of effect that would have on Brown and Tatum and their leadership.
I'd like to see a point guard that could get Tatum the ball in a good position instead of like Schroeder and Kemba used to do, dribble down the score. If they didn't shoot, they handed it to him at the top of the key where he's double covered, and now he's got to wiggle and, it's a tough shot. You got to give him the shot in a better place if you want him to score for you.
I'm a big Marcus Smart fan, but I just don't think his chemistry right now is working with this team. I think he has something to offer a team. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
This team, I don't know if this is the team that it works with.
Brad Stevens makes his mark as a GM when he trades Marcus Smart.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that?
Okay.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Brad Stevens, I thought, this was just kind of the booby prize that, until he got a college job. I'm very impressed with Brad Stevens. I think if Brad Stevens had been the GM of this team 3 years forward, that this team would be a lot more competitive than it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Danny Ainge just took the last 3 years off. But are you impressed with Brad Stevens right now? His attention to detail?
I think he's very thoughtful. I think he thinks things out very thoroughly, and I think he's not afraid to pull the trigger on things.
I think we got to see what he does. He's got about 6 months for me, where what he does at this deadline and what he does at this summer, that's all you're going to need to know. And
he can't stand pat this year. He can't.
He can't.
He
can't to me.
But he's a seller. We'll agree he's a seller, not a buyer.
I think I would put it as selective buying. I think it would be like sending stuff out that will help better teams get better and bringing guys in who aren't part of like a complete strip down. I don't think they should strip this team down to the studs. So I think you need to get guys who are around the same age as Tatum and Brown. That's the bottom line, right? Good players, not 21-year-olds or 19-year-olds, but 23-year-olds, 24-year-olds, 25-year-olds.
By the way, Russ, what do you think of Dozier?
I mean, he was playing really well. He blew his ACL.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the kind of guy you'd want, but that's a next year thing. He may never play a minute for this team. He's just a contract at this point.
He was actually he was on our roster as for a short period of time a few years ago, right?
Yep.
And then Bowl. I mean, that's just what Taco Fall times 2.
Oh yeah, that's all.
Yeah,
he's shorter.
Yeah.
He'll probably, like Russ said earlier, he probably never play.
No.
They just Wick told him get under the tax. I don't care how you do it.
Right.
And now he's down to like $2.5 million.
He's easily can get under the tax if he wants.
And 1.5. Jalen Brown is probably not going to make his incentives.
Right.
That's another 1.5. All they got to do is get rid of someone at the end of the bench. $1 million. And that's
Who cares, Joe? Who cares to save Wick
Grossbeck cares.
Why don't we even talk about that? Who cares? I know
we don't care, but they care.
What Grossbeck bought the team for like $600 million. It's currently worth $3.5 billion. I'm really interested. I could care less, and they don't lose anything by going over the tax.
Yeah, my deal with the tax is fine. If they want to get under the tax this year, fine, because this team's not going anywhere. But here's what I want. I don't want to hear about the tax if they have a chance of getting a third star or a fourth guy, right? That I will lose my flipping mind at that point in time. If you have a legitimate shot to bring in a third and a fourth star into this team, and they're worried about the salary cap, what's the tax? What's it? Why is it even worth rooting for these guys?
Because they got rid of Tice last year to get under the tax.
They did, and that whole thing about why we don't have Desmond Bane, who's a starting guard, exactly what we need for the third place team in the Western Conference was to get under the tax last year. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Nobody cares. Yeah, I think the NBA does itself a disservice with all these TPEs and stuff. We're big time NBA fans, and we don't even understand 90% of this. The average fan just wants to know that a trade was for a player, for another player, and how does this help our team? Not TPEs. Who the hell knows what the hell that is?
Yep.
You know, it's
The
just
Celtics got TPEs coming out the
yeah, CP's up there, CPS. Yeah, I know. But we can guarantee one thing: no matter what the talk is in this lots, the two J's are not going anywhere.
Nope. And they're not going anywhere. And there really is a reason why for that. You know, if you look at them, I'm looking at right now, the last 10 to 12 years of NBA champions. And what's clear beyond a shadow of a doubt is you need a top 5 player on your team to win an NBA championship. That's just the bottom line. If you look back, Kobe Bryant, Dirk Nowitzki, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Curry and Durant, Durant, Leonard, James, and Giannis. They're all top 5 players. You don't win an NBA championship unless you have a top 5 player. Period.
No. And the Celtics have never won a championship without a top 5 player.
Well, I mean, would you have said, I guess Garnett was a top 5 player in 2011, right? I mean, 2008.
Absolutely.
Pierce was right at the top of the list. I mean,
and Pierce was close. So if they weren't 5, they were.
Used to go toe to toe with LeBron and Kobe.
Right. That's right, Timmy. So he was, if they didn't have 5, they had 2 guys in the top 10.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
But your hope, unless you can convert one of those guys into a top 5 player, you basically just have to hope that one of them becomes a top 5 player to win a championship.
Pierce shows signs when he gets going. Sometimes
Tatum, you mean?
Sometimes Tatum, Tatum. He's the best guy on the floor at moments. I mean, when he really puts his mind to it, and that's what's frustrating about him, because you see when he's in his groove what he can do, and then when he's not in it, it's very frustrating.
It's frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah, when he's hanging out at the top of the key and just going from top of the key to top of the key on offense and defense, that's when you know he's just not invested in the game that night.
You start to realize, though, that we're not that far away. When you have a guy, you know, there's no super uber team, and that's what the NBA usually has.
That's right.
There's no LeBron is leaving. He's gone. It doesn't matter anymore. There's room for a new champion.
You never know who the Nets are going to be putting on the floor from night to night.
No, you don't. Look, if I'm Brad, I'm sitting there saying, I've got 2.5 players who I'm going to base this team on, the half being Rob Williams, who does things that other centers don't, right? And then I would basically say to myself, every single other player in draft pick that we have, I should be willing to deal for like the 5 best people to put around those 2.5 guys.
Yeah.
And when I say, I'm talking about the next 6 years of draft picks, young players, contracts you have, push them all across the table and just bring me back 5 guys to surround those 2.5 guys.
Plus, number one,
like they did with Garnett.
Right. Is a Rondo type point guard.
Totally, Timmy.
You know,
organic.
Setting those guys up all day long.
That's right. I want a point guard who was born a point guard. Literally, at the first day of his birth.
Rated on how important he was to that team, man.
Yep.
All he did was freaking make one great pass after another, and he brought out the best in those guys. You know, you need a distributor. That's what you need.
This is a guy you can get late in the first round. You can get a guy like that. You don't need a top 10 pick.
Scotty, the league's obsessed.
That was a shot. The
league's obsessed with the 3-point shot right now.
I mean, what's interesting to me is your evaluation of Rondo from 2008 to 2013. Could he be that guy as a bad 3-point shot? I mean, that's Dennis Schroeder you just described. Now, here's the problem with Schroeder. He's not the passer. He's a dribbler, right? He can get to the hole, but he's not the passer that Rondo is. But could Rondo be Rondo in terms of his effectiveness in 2022?
I know.
Because of the 3.
It's a 3-point league right now, you know?
I like that Van Fleet.
Yeah, Van Fleet. Look, I think honestly, I think the young point guard of the NBA that I would love, and they could get, because he's unrestricted free agent this year, and they could get him at the deadline maybe, is Jalen Brunson from Dallas, is exactly what we're talking about. Distributor, big body. He's Van Fleet. That's who he is.
I think, they're going to keep him. They're going to do everything they can.
You'd think so, but if you put Marcus Smart on that team, that'd be a very interesting team.
Ooh, yeah.
Just to play defense next to Luka.
Luca, just to let him be the off the
Marcus
ball
Smart
guy.
is from Texas. Like you could, I would call them up and say, there's no guarantee you're going to be able to sign Brunson. He's going to cost you a lot of money. We got Marcus Smart locked up for 4 years. Wouldn't you like to put him next to Luca? And we'll send a couple of extra things your way if we need to.
Yeah, they can send Langford out the door. I'm completely done with that.
Yeah, we'll take a bad contract back, right? Like that's the kind of stuff I really hope Brad is considering.
Okay, but this is my problem with all that, and it's all good. But it felt like Peyton Pritchard should be that guy. What's wrong with Peyton Pritchard that he's not?
Can't play defense, Scotty. He's just he's brutal on defense.
And they want him to shoot all the time. They don't want him passing for some reason. I don't know what the coaching staff's ruining him.
He's shooting under instructions, I don't see him just heaving them up like he is on his own.
I think he's a fantastic either backup or 1B point guard. Bring me a 1A point guard and play Pritchard 20 minutes a night, 22 minutes a night and say, just go light it up and we'll protect you on defense.
Yeah, we didn't talk too much about it, but Lonzo Ball would look really good. Right? I mean,
exactly.
Him for just about nothing a few years
ago. Exactly, Scotty. That's what they missed. They messed that up the last off season.
Well, all everyone looked at was his shooting. That's all they looked at was his shooting.
Now he's shooting like 38% from three. Fixed his shot. Killing me.
Oh, he beat the Bulls the other night, though. That was
well, he didn't play. I mean, none of those guys played.
That annoying father, man, he was right. He
was right.
Now there's 3 kids all around the country. He can't be in 3 places at once.
Wait, the third kid, where does the third kid play?
He's probably in China or something.
He's in China or something, but I don't know. Mr. Ball got paid off by somebody. Literally, the only thing that would have made Mr. Ball shut up was money. So someone gave him a lot of money to keep his mouth shut.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because he was right, and guys like him, when they're right, they get louder.
I haven't seen much of Mr. Ball.
No, he went away, Timmy. I think someone paid him off.
In that world, short money, like $1 million a year.
Yeah, just stop. Right.
Oh, exactly. You think the NBA made him a consultant?
Something. Somebody.
A shoe company.
Teams have.
The last thing you need was Mr. Ball on First Take every morning with Stephen A. Smith spouting off about something or other. That's no good for the NBA.
The Lakers took care of that.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
No, come on, guys. It was Michael Jordan who took care of it.
You don't think it was a shoe company that took care of it? I think a shoe company took care of it.
By the way, Scotty's favorite players in town tonight.
Jordan gave
Gordon.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Jordan had Nike give lots
I think that's right.
of Nike.
It's a good bet. That's a good bet.
Because he was hurting their marketability.
Yeah.
Also, Jordan
big ballers.
Something like that.
Oh, maybe they bought that. Yeah, they probably bought that for $5 million or something.
Well, buy your sneaker company and hit the gag order,
Yeah, exactly. No, that's great. Yeah, great take on that stuff. Absolutely. All right, boys, we have to talk. Did you guys see on your credit cards today? Did you guys all get the bill?
I didn't get it yet. I didn't look. I'm sure we got it.
Yeah, because they charged us yesterday. The Red Sox, when they get your credit card, they're more than comfortable charging it.
But they send a Christmas ornament, Scotty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they have no problem charging the season ticket holders when it doesn't even look like the season's going to start. So, boys, why aren't they talking? It's ridiculous.
Management doesn't think they need to. They think the players will come crawling back to them.
What's the old saying in negotiations? He who speaks first loses.
Mm-hmm.
Look, they got to get a new guy, Tony Clark, guys like that. They're just, they're not representing the players well.
I don't think anyone associated with that sport is really self-aware enough or aware enough of what's really going on there, right? And they don't start the season. They're killing themselves. They're committing
all like free advertising is gone.
Brutal.
Gone.
Yeah, they always struggle to start the season because that's when the playoffs are happening for basketball, hockey, the Masters, all this stuff.
The weather doesn't help.
Yeah, they can't do this. They need the hot stove. They need acquisitions to happen.
Gotta get people excited,
Rob
You
Manfred.
need spring training.
Talking about Boston, I mean, Boston, we're ready. We're ready for a season, We're
absolutely.
But if there's no spring training, no phenom to talk about, no one's gonna show up.
Mm-mm.
All right, boys, are we going to sign Suzuki? We haven't had a Japanese player in here that's fun. I mean, I know we got Saramura, but he's no fun. We need a fun Japanese player. Koji was awesome. Okajima was fun. Matsusaka was a happening no matter what. We like our Japanese players. Is Suzuki coming to Boston?
I have a good feeling about it. Yeah, I have a good feeling about it. I think between Daisuke and Koji and all these guys who are probably advocating for the Red Sox, they probably have a pretty good shot.
Now, do you think when the Red Sox get a Japanese player, they see an uptick in marketing in Japan?
Oh, no question.
Absolutely do.
I
remember Daisuke was like a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Remember, they used to televise every game back to there.
They had reporters following him around, right?
Yeah.
So, Timmy, the Red Sox are not accommodating Japanese reporters unless they're getting some money back somehow, some way. The Red Sox don't do anything unless there's a check.
We'll get that posting feedback one way or another.
But it'd be fun. I mean, we need as many big name players on the Red Sox as possible. That's what we like. And get rid of Hunter Renfroe and put in Suzuki there. That makes it a bigger story as the season progresses. So does it happen, boys? Russell?
I have a pretty good feeling about it, but who the heck knows?
Yes?
Yeah.
All right, Joe, is Suzuki coming to Boston?
Yeah, because I think there's a need there where they got rid of Hunter. They have a need. JBJ does not fill it. So I think they have to go out and get a major league ready guy.
So you got to fill me in on this guy.
Is.
You got to fill me in on this guy. How many home runs last year?
I don't know.
He played in the Japanese league, so stats really aren't.
Is he a power hitter? What is he, a power hitter?
Just a really solid player, right?
Yeah, he's a very good hitter. He's a center fielder, but he can play right field. Got a plus arm, so he can play right field in Fenway.
Would it be an upgrade over Renfroe?
Yes.
Yeah.
In every category, in all 5 categories: speed, glove, arm, hitting, and maybe not hitting for power. It's hard to replace 31 home runs. Hard to beat that.
I would like our outfield then if we can throw a guy of that caliber in there. I mean, I like Kiki in center. And I like
absolutely.
left. I mean,
look, all I had to do is give money. I'm all for this stuff.
Yeah.
Then you're able to trade Renfroe for prospects. Look, this would really help Heim Bloom in the whole picture of things. Russ, you had talked about before the show, Red Sox have 3 of the top 30 prospects in baseball. That sure is a big change from the last few years.
It sure is. Yeah. I mean, I think he's done the first job that he was, hired to do, which was to restock that farm system. And, not only did he restock it, he restocked it with high-end talent. That York pick was his, right?
Yeah.
That was a wild card. That was panned. If you had talked to us the day after he picked York, we would have been hammering Chaim. Well, as it turns out, he's the 31st best prospect in Baseball America. They got Marcelo Mayer. They stuck with Cassis. You have to give the guy credit.
That's a good looking infield there. That's a first baseman, a second baseman.
Sure is.
And a shortstop.
What's the latest?
Go with the young Devons.
The pitcher there, Groom or Bloom or whatever his name was there.
Groom. Yeah, I mean,
he's gonna have to come back. Prospects, that's for sure. None of their pitches.
Yeah.
Well, they're hoping still that he's actually shown some life to him, and was pitching.
Yeah.
Portland.
He looked good. He looked good. As a young kid, he looked spectacular.
I think it's more going to be about Tanner Houck's development this year. Does he become a starter? And does he become more than a 5-inning starter?
Well, they got guys like Brian Mata and Bello that you could hear a lot. They have some good pitching prospects, but we've heard that before, and that hasn't worked out.
Henry Owens.
Oh, my, for God's sake. Look at that.
Can't miss kid.
Greatest 4-ray lefty ever.
Oh, my God. You can just go down the line. The Red Sox have had trouble producing great pitchers. And when they did, John Lester, they end up getting rid of him. And
We all knew where this conversation was headed.
John Lester retires. That was, other than Babe Ruth.
Wait, let me check.
Babe Ruth.
How long did it take to get to Lester?
Other than Babe Ruth, the second worst move the Red Sox have ever made in the history of their franchise.
You know what I loved? Where his stats were like identical at the Cubs as they were to the Red Sox. Like identical.
2013, the Red Sox win the World Series. The press conference after, who is the leader of that team, who speaks for the team, who represents them? Not Big Papi. It was John Lester.
Why did it happen? Is some
Lucchino didn't want. It was Lucchino's. He was like, it was his last stand. It was his last act, which was to foul up the John Lester negotiation.
Oh, remember John Henry had gone to the conference of
Exactly.
analysts at MIT, and they had the big paper about you never sign a pitcher over 30 for a long-term deal. John Henry went back to Lucchino. You don't sign that guy to a long-term deal.
That was analytics rearing its ugly head right there.
Yeah. Sometimes they're wrong. Usually they're right. Sometimes they're wrong. They're wrong.
Don't believe what your eyes tell you. Believe what the analytics tell you.
Hey, Correa just signed with Boris. Whatever agent he had, he left him.
I was going to say they couldn't sign a contract.
Interesting. Boris has always had a nice relationship with the Red Sox. Do you think that?
Yeah, I mean, only if one of those guys wanted to move to second base or something. I mean, if you were Boris, would you want Correa to move to second base? Would you want Xander to move to second base? I don't think. In fact, I think it makes it even less likely.
Oh, you do?
Boris is not going to. Well, think about it. It's like when the same agent represented Jimmy G and Brady, right? Like, who's he going to go to? Like, Xander, I really think you should move to second base because my other client wants to play shortstop.
Right. Well, it's very nice that you mentioned Jimmy G because it had been how long was the show, and I didn't do it.
Jimmy G. Here we go.
Russ did it. I didn't do it. And just so you know, Joe should have had the Jimmy G shirt this week.
Definitely. I'm the only one who picked them to win.
I think I had the Patriots score right. I just didn't have Buffalo score right.
I actually said, I just
0.
want to mention, I said the Patriots were going to get wiped out. I used the word wiped.
I know you did, Scotty. You were adamant about it.
Wiped out, and no one gave me any credit.
Did. I have it in my notes here. Wiped out.
All right.
I would disagree with you, as you might recall.
Never want to claim the fame, though. So that's what I
No, I keep it very humble over here in Brookline. All right, we finish up with the Boston Bruins. That was a hell of a. Here it is. God bless. What is it? Willie McRae?
Willie O'Ree.
Leo Reed, that's God bless him for being having his number retired. Well deserved. That was a nice ceremony last night. It was great to see. I don't know if you saw the video of some of the old players, O'Reilly and Bork. Bruins did a nice job.
About hockey right now, a good Division III college team would beat any one of those teams from the '60s.
I know you say, come on, don't ruin it for me. Come on, just don't talk about that. Probably a good high school team would probably beat them. They'd be too fast for them. Bruins lose 7-1 last night.
That was one of those nights.
They were due for a clunker.
Yeah, it was 5-1 at the end of the first period.
But the play that amazed me was how that guy just dropped the shoulder on Clifton and just pushed him aside. That has to be
a lot of.
If you pride yourself as a tough defenseman, boy, that's a hard video.
They got a lot of injuries on defense. They were due for a clunker. They've been so good. I think you just flushed that game down the toilet.
Flushed it down the toilet, man.
Yeah.
And everything that they were throwing into the net went into. I mean, it's just just happens sometimes.
Just one of those things. Yeah.
Is Sweeney going to make deals to try to save his job?
They got to beef the D up. They got to. I mean, this team has to get a little tougher. I know I sound like a broken record. They got to get a couple of tough guys in there. They have to. When the players you start getting pushed around by the Tampas of the world, you got to be able to come back at them.
I don't see his job being even remotely in jeopardy. I think haven't they won about 2/3 of their games this year? It's like, I mean, they're in the wild card hunt, but that's because those 3 teams went off like crazy. To start the year.
Oh yeah, Florida and Tampa went. Winning everything in sight.
This line shift seems to have worked pretty well.
Yeah, it's worked. I mean, look, I hope he makes some deals. He's got to be trying to go for it. Like we talked about this a couple of times, is that The clock is, Bergeron and Marchand are on about the 14th and the 15th hole at this point in time, right?
I'd like to get one big tough.
Maybe 18 for Bergeron.
I'd like to get
Maybe.
one big tough solid puck moving defenseman, which are like bars of gold. And
Yeah.
I'd like to get one more guy that can actually, put stats up on the board.
Good second line center.
A guy who actually,
Good call back to the
a
third
guy
line.
who's consistently on the score sheet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be able to
Knock
check.
it all.
He doesn't have to be able to back check. He doesn't have to be able to, play defensive. He just needs to be able to put the puck in the net.
All right, boys. So that's our show for tonight. Want to thank, of course, everyone behind the scenes. Of course, Ian. Want to thank the fellas. Please check us out on our website at thegrandstanders.com and tune in again next Wednesday night at 6:30 for another edition of Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman. Have a great and happy night.